I had a situation where I had in my mind that I wanted to have 10 dental practices early in my career. I had a financial target that I was trying to hit, and just randomly, arbitrarily, like like most goals are that we generate in our heads. You know, you want $1 million in the bank, $1 million net revenue, 10 practices, just an arbitrary goal. I'm driving hard. 7 years into my career, I had 6 dental practices. I achieved the practice number goal. I achieved the revenue goal. I achieved the net worth goal. Everything seemed to be great. Nice house on a golf course, 2 beautiful cars in the driveway, 3 kids in private school. By all outside appearances, things were going great. But when I realized at that time, when I hit all of these arbitrary goals, was that I had never been more miserable in my life. I was a miserable jerk. I was not fun to be around, and I was not living a fulfilling life. So we created this matrix as a way to take these subjective feelings of I feel stressed, I feel overwhelmed, I feel like like my personal relationships are fading, I feel unhealthy. All of these things that are subjective, we try to do everything inside DSI to make these subjective feelings into an objective measure. So we created this thing called the 4 futures. Mind is your ability to handle stress, your internal self-talk, whether or not you have mood regulation throughout the day. So at the time, I would say that I was probably a 0 out of 10 there. I was, like I said, I was not a very nice person to be around. I was drinking way too much just to control the stress in my life. I was sleeping like crap. 0 out of 10 in the mind quadrant. My personal relationships, meaning personal relationships were on the rocks. I was working 80-hour weeks. Not a happy person, not a nice person to be around. 0 out of 10. My muscle quadrant, I had been an ex-collegiate athlete, and I was now eating fast food and skipping the gym, drinking way too much just to control the stress. 0 out of 10. But financial quadrant, 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. So if you guys knew the backstory, and a 0, 0, 0, and 10, that's 10 out of 40. If you guys knew the backstory, you probably would say that that dude is on a razor's edge and he is not a successful person. If you knew nothing else except for the financial quadrant, which is what most of us spend the vast majority of our time focusing on, and gauging our success based on this quadrant, you would say that I was a wildly successful dude with all the trappings of all these things, right? So this is something that we spend a ton of time assessing inside our group. And I think that if it's not this, some other sort of objective measure for these types of areas of your life, I think is very valuable.